Well, my name is Leah Temper, and I work for the EJOLT project, Environmental Justice Organizations, Liabilities and Trade. Well, we're actually a project, so we work with many different organizations, and they work on different areas. A lot of them work on kind of thematic areas, but focusing on specific types of injustice. For example, we work with the World Rainforest Movement. So the World Rainforest Movement is a social movement. They also represent other smaller grassroots movements, and they work against tree plantations. And, maybe people that are not familiar with environmental issues would say, well, what's wrong with trees? They're planting trees. But in fact, one of their main slogans is tree plantations are not forests. And actually, a lot of deforestation takes place in order to plant tree plantations, sometimes to sequester carbon, so to get carbon offsets, sometimes for pulp and paper mills or for other purposes. And this type of monocultural tree plantation has many other impacts. It includes a lot of water scarcity, pesticide use, displacing people from their territories, so on and so forth. So that's only one example. I mean, we work with about 14, 15 different NGOs, and some of them work on nuclear issues that can include uranium mining to nuclear waste disposal, climate justice issues, oil and gas extraction. We work with the Oil Watch International, and we work with groups that are focused on mining, the Latin American Mining Observatory, and groups that work on a whole range of issues. The idea behind EJOLT is to bring together these activists that I've mentioned, and I have to say that I think, we have, as far as radical environmental justice groups go, and a lot of the people in EJOLT, I would say, are definitely on the most radical end of the spectrum as far as a framing of environmental justice issues. So I would say we work with some of the best activists in the world that are working on these issues, and bringing them together with academics that are working on working on what we call the transversal themes of the project. So these include environmental health. So how can we support these communities in tracking their local environmental health? Maybe you've heard of something called popular epidemiology. So how can communities really, track their own health? And then we work with universities and also other organizations that give legal support. So, they help gather information about what have been successful legal strategies in the fights for environmental justice. We also work, some of us are ecological economists, so we work on issues of valuation. So when environmental decision-making is taking place, it's very often that they use tools such as cost-benefit analysis. How can we attack cost-benefit analysis? What are alternative means of valuing the environment and providing counterweights to the type of valuation processes that take place under business-as-usual scenarios? I think that the individual organizations are addressing a lot of these issues, but I think EJOLT is creating an important space for collaboration. So when we come together in our meetings, particularly, we kind of discuss, and we are able to deepen the understanding of specific aspects of justice that maybe there's not always, as many environmental justice organizations do campaign work. So there's often, they don't have the time necessarily to reflect on some issues, or they will use ideas in their campaigns. But I think that it gives us a space to deepen analysis of some of the underlying issues. Like two of the main things. The last meeting we had in Nigeria, we were talking a lot about the idea of ecological debt. So how can we claim the ecological debt? What is the best way to do so? And yeah, I think it's definitely creates a space for collaboration and exchange, I would say. Yeah, that's a difficult question because obviously, I mean, the major obstacles to achieving justice are actually the same root as the sources of injustice themselves. So, I mean, it all comes back to the inequalities of power that exist in the world today, and that when there are costs to be borne of the industrial economy, they are projected onto the weakest and the most marginalized members of society. And then the justices are compounded because obviously, these costs are being externalized because you're weak, because you're not able to speak for yourself, because it's the easiest. There's an expression that we like to use in ecological economics where we say externalities are not market failures, they're cost-shifting successes. So because it's easier to shift these costs, and that's the way the system is constructed, when you're trying to confront these same injustices or these successes, then you're hitting up against the same problems and confronting the forces of power. So I think that the challenge, I mean, for me, is that, I would say that yes, environmental justice, it does call for a more radical reframing of what the economy is about and how the world is structured in terms of power, rather than just slightly tweaking the system.